like trying to pick a child, a favorite child.
I also believe that everybody is special. That's the thing. It's discovering what makes you special and different from everybody else.
So
Whoa, that's $8 to $10 million a month.
it was more than that. It was a lot of money, and we had a lot of perks, and I had over 300 gas stations that I operated.
Hello, Tom LaVecchia here with the New Theory Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest in the house, Mr. Anthony Delgado. He is the founder of Disrupt. They're out of Newark, and then now we're going to talk about his Puerto Rican expansion. Anthony, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Tom.
All right, so we want to learn who you are. Give us a quick background. You're a tech guy, but give us a little bit more so we understand who you are.
Yeah, so I've been a software engineer for about 10 years now, multiple hackathon champ, and most recently we've been organizing hackathons. So last year we ran the Global AI Hackathon. It operated in 20 cities all across the world, including Dubai, Tokyo, New York, San Francisco, and now we're taking that technology to the beautiful island of Puerto Rico.
All right, just for those who are not as enlightened, what is a hackathon?
A hackathon is a coding competition. So, like, there's a kind of a negative connotation with the word hacker, and I'm really trying to embrace that to become the positive thing that it is. A hackathon is a competition where you have 24 hours to create the most amazing application that you can. And governments have embraced it. There's been hackathons in the White House. Nonprofits use it as a form of innovation. And basically, you just get a bunch of smart people in a room and you have them create a real world solution.
All right, so we're going to get right into what you got going on. So Anthony is currently based out of Newark. He's expanding into Puerto Rico. And first, he visited Puerto Rico very recently. So give us kind of what you saw. I know you went there on a mission to kind of help. You weren't thinking about business at the time. But tell us about the state of Puerto Rico right now in your eyes and what you're planning on doing to help the island.
Absolutely. So, like a lot of other people, when the hurricane first occurred back in September, me and a buddy of mine, we bought a pallet of water and we bought a pallet of food and supplies and we dropped it off at a location, and then we patted ourselves on the back and we went back to our day-to-day lives. And we knew that the power was out, but when the power goes out in New York, you might lose power for a day or two, and then the power goes back on. And come to find out, 5-6 months later, the power never came back on. So in January, I met a gentleman named David. David lived in the island of Puerto Rico for the last 8 years, originally from New York. And he went out there for a simpler life, started a company, started a tourism company. And when the hurricane happened, his for-profit business transformed into a non-profit. And the trucks that he used to do tours, he started using to do hurricane relief. Okay. So I met David in New York City at a client's app release party. And he told me a story about what he was doing in Puerto Rico. And he looked me in my eyes and he told me, I'm doing the best work of my life. Wow. And I was like, ooh, I'm not doing the best work of my life. What am I doing?
All right, so I love that. Okay, so then, but you want to go a little deeper. So you are, and I think you're nuts. I think you're nuts in a good way, is opening up a coding school in Puerto Rico at a time where the island is theoretically in dismay. So walk us through your mission and a little bit more about how you are launching your coding school in Paradise.
Well, I mean, they say that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do.
That's right.
So me and David, we meet up the next day and we're sitting in a diner and we're talking about all the problems that are happening in Puerto Rico. So, the one thing is there's no energy, there's no power. So we start brainstorming, okay, well, let's use solar energy and solar panels. Let's hit up Elon Musk and see if we can get Solar City down there. And then the next problem that we started talking about was the economy. And a large portion of Puerto Rico's economy relies on tourism and leisure. Correct. There's kids that actually go to school for 4 years just so they can speak good enough English to do room service. And not to disrespect anyone's profession, but there should be another part of the economy besides just tourism and leisure. So we're going back and forth. We're having all these ideas. And I'm like, all right, well, let's start a coding school in Puerto Rico. And we're having all these ideas, we're conversing, and then, he looks at me and he says, listen, all these ideas are nice, but you have to come to Puerto Rico, see it firsthand, and witness it. So a few days later, I booked a one-way ticket to Puerto Rico, and for each day up until my flight, I convinced another friend or family member to book a one-way ticket and come with me.
Wow.
And we ended up going out there with about 10 people. Some people had to go back to work, so they flew back in. New people flew out. People saw what we were doing on social media. We gave away 300 solar panel lights. We gave away water, food. We visited schools. We visited kids that were up in mountains that still don't have shoes. And we really were able to see firsthand both the devastation, but then also the beauty and the opportunity. The thing that I kept telling all my friends when they were asking me how it was out there, I was telling them the sun is still shining in Puerto Rico. It's still a beautiful island. There's still beautiful natural resources. About 50 to 60% of the island has restored power at this point. And it really is these forgotten cities that, are lower income that they have still not restored the power to.
Okay. Now, from a tech perspective, and I do have some experience in this space, you think about places like India historically, Philippines has been hot for a minute, Romania, obviously Ukraine, but in like the Caribbean or in like, even South America, some of the hotter areas that are on the map coming up is Barbados, some pockets out of Brazil. You hear of some hot areas. You don't think of Puerto Rico. So is it fair to say you want to make it kind of the Silicon Island?
Absolutely. I mean, we see Puerto Rico could be like the Tokyo of the Caribbean. It's in the same time zone as New York City. They take American currency. Everyone who's born there is an American citizen. So unlike, outsourcing and working with a software engineer or developer in India or the Ukraine, if you really like the person that you're working with in Puerto Rico, they can hop right on a plane and work for you full time.
Now, you're doing things a little differently where, okay, so let's just say I decide to go there, right? And I know you have different levels of classes, from 101 all the way to the master level. But also, if I go ahead and I buy a tuition, as I understand it, piggybacks off a tuition off of a local resident. Walk us through that.
Yeah, totally. So, we came up with this concept, and we realize that the people in Puerto Rico can't even afford to fix their homes, some of them. So how are they going to afford a $20,000 coding boot camp? So we're marketing this to Americans, and we're combining an education with a vacation. So in the mornings, you're going to go through your lectures, and you're going to learn, and you're going to have amazing instructors. But then in the afternoon, in the evenings, and on the weekends, you're going to jump off of a waterfall. You're going to ride a jet ski. You're going to actually really live life. So not only are you going to be transformed by the education, but you're also going to have experiences that change your life. So that sounds great, but how does that positively affect the people in Puerto Rico? Yeah. So for every single student that we get from the United States, we're going to sponsor the tuition of a student from the island.
Give us an example of the curriculum. What are some of the classes and the boot camps you're going to have?
So unlike a lot of coding boot camps that are currently offered in the United States, we are really offering this to people who already know how to code. So we are going to have a boot camp 101 where you learn the basics of coding, but then we have a blockchain curriculum that we're releasing. We have a bots and AI machine learning curriculum, which is super hot. Cybersecurity, which is super hot in the government sector. VR. So we're really marketing this not only to people that want to learn to code for the first time, but people who have already been coding and are trying to add more tools to their tool belt. Okay, so I go to your website. What's your website? Caribbean.institute. Okay, and for those listening on iTunes, we'll put a link on the bottom, and there'll be a link on the article on New Theory as well. So I go onto your website, I decide to sign up, I pay the tuition, whether it be for a week or a month or whatever the interstitial classes are. So give us, and again, so I want to talk about the vacation part for a second because I'm going to have to take a class. Give us some of the fun stuff and give us a little bit about the wealth of natural resources surrounding Puerto Rico and why it's a great place to visit. Well, I mean, the natural beauty of that island is really incredible. I mean, you can get lost. You can go down a wrong street and you're just looking at natural beauty everywhere. There's palm trees, there's beautiful birds, beautiful sunsets, beautiful waterfalls, and all this kind of just natural beauty that, it's funny because we're teaching a tech class, right? But you can actually turn your cell phone off and just kind of bask in that glory. So the experience that we're offering from a learning perspective is fully inclusive. So you pay your tuition, and your tuition covers your room and board. All you have to do is buy your plane ticket to get to the island. And then once you get there, you're going to be staying in an amazing villa. You're going to be actually living with your instructors and your teachers' assistants. All the meals are going to be catered by a personal chef. You're going to have a pool, and you're really going to live life on the island. And you're going to be able to kind of disconnect while you're connecting to technology, which we think is a really unique experience.
Now, okay, so but you're taking it one step further. And I asked Anthony to be on the podcast, and I've been stalking him to be on because I'm a little obsessed with this concept. So I sign up, I come down, I learn. The cool thing is I kind of partner up and sponsor a local guy. He'll show me around. I'll learn a little bit of the natural environment there, but I'll have somebody local to show me around, which is great, right? But then also, once I'm done, you also have it worked out where you'll also, if obviously the skills are there, you also help people find jobs. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so we have a wealth of hiring partners who are dedicated to diversity and inclusion in tech. So, as you know, diversity and inclusion in tech has been a big issue, big pain point for the last couple of years. They're creating facial recognition software that only recognizes the faces of the Caucasian people who created the software, and it's not even malicious intent. It's just kind of a pain. Those are the people that are there, right? So we've lined up a lot of strategic partners who are dedicated to reviewing the resumes and reviewing the candidates who are coming out of this school. And the beautiful part about the buddy program is that we're pairing people together like a buddy program. So the person from Puerto Rico is going to have a lifelong friend in New York, for example, and the person from New York is going to have a lifelong friend in Puerto Rico. Microsoft already has a headquarters on the island of Puerto Rico, and we want to be part of that wave to encourage more companies like Google, like Amazon, to create satellite offices on the island.
Yeah, because I see a dual effect here. One is, who knows, I might go down there and I might learn to code. I might want to work locally. And the more it becomes a bigger tech hub, it helps out the island, but it also helps out me as an individual because I go to New York, go to Seattle, go wherever I want to fulfill my dreams. But this can't be easy, though. Give us about some of the challenges and barriers to entry to putting a school together in Puerto Rico.
Absolutely. So, power has been a struggle on the island. The island is probably at about 60% power. So in the capital and, in the cities where we're going to be running the school, we will have power. But that's definitely a barrier. Reliable internet connection is another barrier. But if you're actually a good software developer, you should be developing everything locally on your laptop anyway. So this is actually going to encourage us to have best practices where you download all the files onto your laptop, and then even if you lose connection, if you're kind of in airplane mode, you're still able to work and execute and get stuff done. One of the nice things about Puerto Rico, since it is an American territory, it does have the strongest internet connection of any other island in the Caribbean. So, you have blazing fast 4G. You're able to, have a 4G backup even if the main internet goes down. One of the biggest challenges, I think, as a whole, maybe not just for creating a school, but just for, what we're taking on. We're taking on the 3 million lives of the residents of Puerto Rico, and our goal is to transform their economy and create a digital one. So, you don't know what you don't know. A lot of the people in Puerto Rico, they have this blazing fast internet, but they're using it for the wrong things. They're using it for YouTube and Facebook, but they're not making the next Facebook. Right. So our goal is to kind of inject the country with this innovative kind of DNA.
Okay, and you're not gonna just limit it to coding per se. You're actually gonna offer other stuff like digital marketing, social media ads, other stuff in that space. So give us some of the project management. Give us some of the ancillary stuff where, hey, I'm not a tech person, but I may want to come down to learn other ancillary skills. What are those skills?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone's not a coder, and we do realize that, but the digital evolution is upon us. So there are other roles in the tech field, in the startup field, where people can learn new skills and get jobs. So you touched on one of the great ones, project management. You can have the best developers in the world, but if you're not running a agile, lean team, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So we're teaching people Scrum. We're offering a Scrum boot camp for people that don't necessarily want to become coders, but want to get into that whole tech space. We're offering UX, UI, design, videography, social media marketing, Facebook advertising, and all of the skills that are required for the digital age.
Nice. Okay, so in 5 years, what does it look like?
In 5 years, we are not the first coding boot camp in Puerto Rico. We're one of many. Other people are inspired to come down to the island and compete with us.
You're the first now?
We will be the first now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we will be the first coding boot camp now. But what I've been saying is I don't want us to be the last. I want us to be the first. So we're really encouraging competition. In 5 years from now, there's a WeWork down there. There's a General Assembly down there. And we're one of many technology staples on the island.
Now, listen, I get it. You want to help. And there's an argument, because you're a young guy. There's an argument that you should make your bread first, get the bag, and then contribute. Don't get me wrong. You're doing well, but you're giving up a lot by doing this. Is there some risk on your part from your personal career for this endeavor?
I mean, yeah. There's definitely been a lot of risk. Definitely been a lot of risk. I mean,
what did she say here? Your family, hey, I'm opening a coding school and then boot camp or school in Puerto Rico. They look like you had 10 heads, or has everybody been pretty much supportive for the most part?
People look at you like they have 10 heads, but I don't think they have the confidence to tell you otherwise. So, because what if it works, right? But
when it works.
Yeah, when it works. One of the nice things is, since I've been in the tech space for so long, I have really solid technology partners who are going to be day one supporters of this. So we're throwing a giant hackathon to kick things off. Nice. It's called Disrupt Puerto Rico. And we're going to have a bunch of amazing sponsors and get these technology partners, these players, involved in getting them down there. The other thing from a business perspective, listen, I get it. You can't pour out of an empty glass. Yeah. But there are tons of opportunity in Puerto Rico. There's actually a huge tax incentive that you may not know about. So we just came back from Puerto Crypto. It's Puerto Rico's huge cryptocurrency conference. The governor's office spoke. Tons of investors, tons of people in the space, tons of people flew in from all across the world to look at Puerto Rico as this haven for cryptocurrency investment. So there's a tax code called Section 22, which gives any new business a 20-year tax abatement, and they end up getting a 4% flat tax on their new business for 20 years. Wow. In addition to that, as an individual, if you are a resident of Puerto Rico, and a resident of Puerto Rico is anywhere that lives there for 6 months or more, so 6 months plus a day, yeah, you get a 0% capital gains tax. So that means you as an individual pay 0% on capital gains.
And you still apply for your federal tax return, but get that incentive.
Absolutely. So there's tons of incentives for new businesses to come to the island.
Okay, so this all makes sense, but there's other smart people out there. Why hasn't Puerto Rico taken off as a result, or just maybe you looked under the right rocks?
Well, I think there's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of, misconceived notions about the island. There's a lot of cultural barriers. Like I said, the people on the island, they have the internet. They have this blazing fast internet. But you don't know what you don't know. So they have YouTube, but they're not using it to watch TED Talks. So we really want to be the spark that lights that new wave of consciousness to the 3 million lives in Puerto Rico.
Okay, love it, Anthony. Okay, so again, give the website again, and how can we find you?
Yeah, so you can look us up on Instagram. We are actually at Coding Bootcamp. So at Coding Bootcamp on Instagram. Or you can log on and go to Caribbean.institute or CaribbeanInstitute.org.
Awesome. How can we find you on your personal?
Yeah, so you can look me up, AnthonyDelgado.me, or you can go to my personal website, which is AnthonyDelgado.me.
Awesome. I love what you're doing. You're making things matter. And what did you say you want to are you doing your best stuff, you said, or are you living your best life or best work?
Yeah. Doing the best work of your life and being the change that you want to see in the world.
I love it, man. Listen, we're going to put some links. We're going to promote the shit out of this. We're going to get Anthony a full class. And Anthony, thank you for being on New Theory Podcast. We love what you're doing.
Thank you, Tom.